Hey, it's Jesse from the Vegas Guys Locker Room. You guys ever thought about starting your own podcast? Whether it be for business, personal, or simply talking about the things you love? Well, I can honestly say when we started our podcast, it was the best decision and it's the most fun we've ever had. But starting a new podcast can be overwhelming at times. And that's where Buzzsprout comes in. Buzzsprout is the best way to start your own professional podcast. They're so good, they've already helped out over 100,000 podcasters get their message out to the world. Buzzsprout offers you so many tools, like a great-looking podcast website, audio players that you can drop into other websites, detailed analytics to see how people are listening, and tools to promote your episodes, and more and more and more. Buzzsprout even gets your show listed on every major podcast platform, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. They provide so many tools to help you get started with tutorials on YouTube, podcast tutorials, everything you may need to get your journey started. So if you're looking to start your professional podcast today, follow the link in the show notes. This lets Buzzsprout know that we sent you and help support our show. Buzzsprout, the easiest way to start a podcast. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Vegas Guys Locker Room. I know it's been a while, but it's almost training camp season. We got to dig right into it. Today, we're going to be breaking down our own dynasty fantasy league that we have just started. Very inaugural season, so we're learning as we go. There was mistakes made, of course, like in every league when you're doing it for the first time. But we're going to break down all the rosters that we're taking care of. From the draft, there were some trades made. There were some free agent pickups and ad drops. But we're going to break down the state of each roster as of right now, as of today. And with me doing that, for the very first time, making his debut on the Vegas Guys Locker Room, Mr. George Hauser.
Hello. I'm glad to be here. Looking forward to the 2023 season and breaking down these rosters. Let's get started.
Yeah, it's going to be good. All right, we're going to start. We'll start with Lee's team. That's who we'll go with first. Lee's team is an interesting one. He's got he's got a pretty solid team. His biggest problem here is he looks like his consistency rating is a little low, especially with Lamar Jackson. You know, Lamar Jackson with a lot of injuries. He's got two stud running backs. His receivers seem to be a little bit weak, if I say so myself. I mean, his two top ones are Devontae Smith and Keenan Allen. Oh, what are your thoughts? You're looking at the draft.
Yeah, I'm sitting here looking at it. I'm looking at the roster here, and I kind of agree with you, but I'm kind of high on Amari Cooper this year. I think he could really flourish with Deshaun Watson, being in his, basically first full year with the Browns. And I kind of agree with the Lamar Jackson, thought there. Christian McCaffrey, Josh Jacobs, Najee Harris, pretty solid running back core. Did pick up. I kind of like Marvin Mims late. Thought that was, pretty solid. Believe he's rookie. Is that correct?
Yeah, he was a rookie. So yeah, he's got some solid rookies. I mean, he did reach out and grab some rookies on that team, which is good. But my biggest concern is his receivers. I'm not a fan of it. As far as Amari Cooper. Listen, everybody knows I'm not a big fan of Lord Voldemort.
Yes,
I refuse to say his name. So I'm not big on that guy until he proves me wrong. I mean, last year when he came in, he looked like garbage. So I'm curious to see how that works out. Yeah, Najee Harris? What do you think about Najee Harris?
Najee, I get the feeling Pittsburgh's going to probably use Jaylen Warren a little more this year, which is going to take some pressure off Najee. So that could be solid. It could be obviously solid. I mean, he's a number one running back. So I don't know. I think with Pittsburgh's offense getting better, with Pickett in his second year, I don't know. We'll see what happens there. But I do kind of like the pick of Najee, especially in the third round. I like it there.
I was curious during the draft. He did the back-to-back defenses. What did you think of that move?
I'm a late defense guy, so I thought it was a little risky to take two back-to-back when there was other players available. I could see maybe taking one, but two,
Yeah, I could see being aggressive. Getting you really want the number one defense from last year.
Exactly.
Okay, I get it. But to grab back to back, I was a little shocked at that. I thought maybe he thumbed it and accidentally drafted it by accident, but no, he wanted the cycle through.
I'm just here kind of looking through the rest of the players that came after that Philadelphia pick. There were some pretty solid picks that he could have made there. Samaje Perine, I think, is a good backup to obviously Javonte Williams. There were some players that I probably would have went with other than another defense. But hey, that's what he chose to do. Then so be it.
Interesting, very interesting. But I mean, he did end up with a couple decent running backs there towards the end with Deontay Foreman, who it's a question mark. Chicago, who's going to be the main guy?
Correct. Yep.
And then Tyler Algier, which it's very tough. He had such a great season, but then you spend high and get Bijan Robinson for that squad, and I know that team runs the heck out of the ball. But I don't know if they're going to make that a two-person backfield. I mean, what are your thoughts on that one?
I think it's going to be Bijan, but I also think in that case, and when he picks him in the 11th round, Algier, I think that's a safe play there. Bijan being the rookie, you don't know what, obviously he's a number one guy. That's who they obviously drafted, and that's what they're going with. But, we'll see what happens there. I think it's a safe pick, though, there to have Bijan's backup if he should falter at some point.
Happens.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at that and I thought, okay, maybe they're going to use him in the passing game, but I looked at the stats. Really not a threat in the passing game. Only had 17 targets on the season last year.
Mm-hmm.
Huge year. I mean, he finishes with over 1,000 on only 210 attempts, which is huge. I mean, he's averaging almost 5 yards a carry every time he touches the ball. So kind of got to give it to the guy. So I'm curious, but I know the draft capital is not there. They didn't take him as a high draft pick in the prior draft. So I'm a little curious on that, but yeah,
I would say just one more thing on Lee's team. I think obviously the weak link there is, or the weak spot there is quarterback. He only has one quarterback on the roster, and Lamar Jackson with injury history could be a problem there. I don't know what's really left on the waiver wire, but nobody obviously in that caliber. So he could be in trouble there, if there's an injury. But other than that, I think it's a average to maybe a little bit better average team.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of additions in that wide receiver room. Beckham is there now, right? And
correct.
They pick up Zay Flowers in the draft.
Correct.
Bateman has kind of been one of those guys everybody's been waiting to pop, and it just hasn't happened.
Yeah, I'm not sold on Bateman. I know a lot of people are, but I'm not.
He hasn't proven it on the field. But of course, Mark Andrews is. I think the whole offense is going to run through Mark Andrews
for sure,
as long as Lamar Jackson stays healthy.
Right.
But overall, he ended up with a B+ rating. I did my draft analyzer. I'm sorry. He ended up with a B+. So a solid team he's got going on there.
Right.
Next team we're going to look at Nick's team. Nick's team also got a B+. His team to me is extremely interesting.
I'll be honest with you. How he got a B+, I have no idea. and I mean that sincerely. Justin Jefferson, I'm on St. Brown, obviously solid 1-2 pick. Jahmyr Gibbs, Zach Carbonet, Devon Shane. Those are his only three running backs.
He's really short on running. He's Well, no, he's only got what does he got?
Does he have a rookie in there somewhere? No. Oh, he has.
Well, now because he's made moves, he has only 2 running backs on his team.
Wow.
So, yeah, he has nobody on his bench. I think he ended up putting – I know he had some rookies that he threw down. But, yeah, he only at this point only has the 2 running backs. Yeah, he had Devon A-Chain, who he threw down on his taxi squad for his rookies. But, yeah, he's got 2 running backs on the roster, and both of those guys are rookies. And I think that's the biggest thing is there's a lot of hype going into his team. He did get Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert last year with the injury, though, was a little inconsistent, but he does end up with the number 1 receiver.
As far as his wide receiver core, Justin Jefferson, Amon, Drake London, Jordan Addison, even Elijah. I think Elijah Moore could actually be solid in Cleveland.
He could be solid.
So I think he's very strong there as far as wide receivers, but man, running backs, I think it's just going to kill him just because of the lack of depth on his team.
Yeah, he's got no depth on there. I wasn't a big fan of him drafting Jordan Addison because he already had Justin Jefferson.
I agree.
I mean, I don't know. I'm just one of those guys. I don't like drafting 2 receivers from the same team. I think you're just asking for trouble because now you're just stealing from each other.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, overall it's a decent team, but it's the rookie hype that he's going to fly on right now.
Correct. And like I say, Jahmyr Gibbs, I think he is going to be solid in Detroit. Great offensive line there. With Montgomery, I think that could be an excellent 1-2 punch. But after that, he just really drops off. He doesn't have any depth.
When he went after Zach Charbonnet, I mean, you're playing behind Kenneth Walker, who was a rookie last year.
Right.
How much is Charbonnet really going to steal from Ken Walker? I don't see
at
it.
At this point, I don't think much. I mean, we'll see what comes out of training camp, but
yeah, bench wise, I mean, he of course he ends up with a backup. He got Justin Fields there, but yeah, just a lack of running backs. He's got two tight ends on his bench right now.
Exactly, he's got Dallas Goedert and Freiermuth, who are two solid tight ends. But I'm trying to look for a trade at this point. If I'm him,
oh yeah,
I'm trying to trade somebody away, see if I can load up a little bit on running backs, at least get a couple more. He has some tradability there, I think.
Yeah, he's going to have to give up one of those receivers.
He's going to have to give up a receiver for sure.
Yeah, he might. You know what? And that's probably a good point. Is maybe Addison, since you already have a Vikings receiver. Maybe that's the guy you move and see what you can get.
Correct.
But yeah, it should be an interesting. And then with the B+. Yeah, those are little holes in his. Little bit of work to do as far as with this team, but. I mean, he's got a nice foundation with the receivers. Of course, Justin Herbert, who just signed that huge deal as of today, was it $262?
Yeah, it was about $262. Look, it came out to about $52 million a year. Hey,
crazy money. Good for him.
Solid quarterback there.
Yep. So, definitely a little work to do. Maybe hit the trade hotline. You know, Kevin's always open for trades.
Speaking of Kevin, I believe he's the next team up.
Kevin. All right, Kevin. We'll do Kevin next. It's interesting because if you look at his roster, he only has 3 receivers.
Yes, and that obviously, I mean, he has Jamar Chase as his number one. You're not getting rid of him, obviously.
No.
But, picked up Deebo Samuel, I believe, in a trade recently.
Yes.
As George Pickens.
No, he traded away Samuels.
Traded Samuels
he traded Deebo.
Oh, for Etienne.
Yeah, for Travis Etienne.
Etienne, that's correct. Correct.
Mean,
I'm kind of looking at the draft here, guys. I'm sorry.
No, but I mean, looking at that, his current roster is kind of iffy. He's loving those trades. I mean, he's bugging everybody.
Listen, I've offered Kevin, if you're out there, I know you're listening. I know you're listening to this podcast. I've got plenty of wide receivers if you're looking to make a trade.
He's got a ton of running backs. I mean,
he does. Dameon Pierce, Cam Akers, Pacheco, A.J. Dillon, Brian Robinson. He's got Kelsey, Josh Allen as quarterback. So he has a solid, I would say, core. He's gonna need another wide receiver.
Yeah, he's gonna need some receivers because I mean when you got George Pickens in there as your starting receiver, that's a little scary.
Yeah, I agree.
And I mean he's got Gabe Davis on the bench, but that's it. That's his wide receiver core is Gabe Davis, George Pickens, and Jamar Chase.
And I'd say the other thing, just looking at his team, he has 4 quarterbacks, which you got to dump some of them at some point. I could see Bryce Young on the taxi squad, obviously, because we're dynasty. I get that, but Daniel Jones, Jordan Love, and his main quarterback number 1 is Josh Allen. So you might have to dump one of those to pick up somebody off the waiver wire or make a trade if somebody's willing to go that route.
Yeah, he definitely loves his running backs. I mean, 6 running backs on the roster, but none of them are really high quality. Nobody that finished in the top 10. I think his highest finished running back is Etienne that he traded for. Finished last year at running back 17. After that, he has like Dameon Pierce, who finishes running back 27.
Cam Akers coming off an injury.
Yeah, Cam Akers, he finished 33. Isaiah Pacheco is 36 last year. I mean, these guys aren't ranked a whole lot higher going into this year, too. The expectation is not huge for any of these running backs.
Yeah, A.J. Dillon there. I mean, I see he picks him up in, I believe, the 9th round. He's gonna be sharing time. There with who am I? What's
Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones.
And A.J. Dillon did not look good last year. I mean, everybody thought that last year his numbers were going to be huge.
Yeah, he was going to come alive last year, and he didn't. I agree.
Yeah, so a lot of work to do there, but you got to get some receivers on that team. He did end up with a B rating, which I thought it should have been lower, but I think the consistency scoring from Josh Allen, which I believe is the highest among the quarterbacks, with an 88% consistency scoring rate.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely a huge positive. He's got the quarterback. Now he needs to get some receivers on his squad
for sure.
So a little bit of work to do. You better hit them trades up. Be a little aggressive there, buddy. Next, we're gonna look at Big Sean. Big time Sean. Right. We're gonna look at that. His team is interesting. Of course, he went with the Patrick Mahomes in the first round, which never a bad play.
No, and I agree with that. I'm not a first round, I'm not a quarterback early guy, but if you're going to take a quarterback early, obviously him or Josh Allen are the guys to take. Looking at his wide receivers, Garrett Wilson in the second, DK Metcalf in the third. Thought he maybe waited a little long on running backs there. He has DeAndre Swift, Madison, and Rashad White. Rashad Penny takes late in the 12th, which I think could be a decent pickup. Let's see what he does this year.
It should be interesting. Yeah, his running backs are wild cards, that's for sure.
Yeah, he has Mike Williams. He has Jalen Hyatt, a wide receiver. Jacoby Myers. He actually made a trade with him. Traded him James Cook, Buffalo running back, for Deontay Johnson. So he no longer has Deontay Johnson on his team. But
James Cook is an issue. And then I guess I saw the report today that Nyheim Hines is out for the entire year with the jet ski accident.
Yeah, unfortunate ACL injury there with the jet ski accident.
That could change things for that running back room, because Damian Harris and James Cook now will both see more field time with
no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Only thing I don't like with James Cook, I mean, I know he's got the speed. Don't know if he's going to get those goal line carries, and seems like Buffalo really doesn't really check down to running backs all that much.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many catches he's going to in a PPR league he's going to get all that many, but he is gonna do something there in Buffalo when he's on the field. He's a solid player.
That's the tough part with the checkdowns not going, because I get it. Josh Allen, you're looking at the 5-yard dump off, or do you just run it? And if you're James Allen and that big body, you're just gonna run it and get as many yards as you can.
Right.
So I definitely got to go with that. I mean, his taxi squad, he's got some. He did go with that. Was it Anthony Richardson on the bench?
Yes, I see that.
He did. He did draft him pretty high. I was curious to see where he was going to go off the board. He did go pretty high.
Goes in the 8th. Yeah, he goes in the 8th round. Jalen Hyatt also on his bench, on the taxi squad there.
Yeah,
he's a rookie too, so that's pretty two solid rookies.
And that part of the gigantic group of slot receivers that the Giants have, because I think all their receivers are under 6 feet.
Good question. I don't know offhand, but
Sterling Shepard, you've got Wan'Dale Robinson. Who else did they just pick up?
Robinson's like 5'7".
Yeah, they have probably I think I was listening to something, and apparently they just love their short receivers there in New York. So apparently somebody's going to be jumping on Darren Wallen's shoulders to catch a football. Apparently.
Exactly.
But I mean, his running backs are suspect, with Rashad Penny and Rashad White leading the way. I mean, he went with the Rashad tandem there, but I'm just, man, that's.
Yeah, DeAndre Swift, Alexander Madison. Yeah, he's going to struggle. He only has 4 running backs on the roster right now. He's going to struggle there.
I think I could see Madison having a big year, now taking over that role from Dalvin Cook.
No doubt.
But I mean, that's going to remain to be seen. I mean, it's listen, Madison is not the same runner as Cook, so I don't think you're going to get the volume that Cook completely gave up. But I think you're going to see spurts of Madison do fine. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a top 20 running back.
Agree.
So, definitely a little bit of work to do, especially in the running back room there, Sean. Listen, I think, Kevin's got 6 running backs, so.
That would be the guy we'd be looking at right now.
You might want to look at his and see if you can get something out of it. All right, next we're going to look at David Gorzy's team. Gorzy, he had an interesting draft. Let's see, what did he end up with? He ended up with some consistent players. His team, I believe all of his receivers, his starting receivers, all play for new teams.
Let me just say this. I think Dave has actually a really good team. Dave starts out 4 running backs. So he goes Bijan, Derrick Henry, Ramondre Stevenson, and Joe Mixon. He also has Dalvin Cook that he took in the 9th.
Yeah, and he's got no home yet, so you don't even know where
home,
he's
so you're just waiting on an injury for him, somebody to snatch him up. I think he still has a good another year or 2 left in those legs. I believe that. And then going with wide receiver, you got Calvin Ridley coming back with Jacksonville, who's obviously going to be an explosive offense in my opinion this year. DeAndre Hopkins, Brandon Ayuk, Kadarius Toney, although he just hurt the knee.
Yep, he got the knee surgery.
Michael Thomas, he took in the 11th. I think that's always an injury risk now with the bad ankle and stuff, but we'll see what happens there.
It seems like he hasn't played football in years.
It seems like it, I know. It's been a couple of years since he's really shown anything. And then Brandon Cooks, which I think could actually be very, very good. Picked him up in the 12th round with the Dallas offense. I think it'd be a very good
value pick for
sure
for him on that one. That was a pretty good move. I'm just curious on. I stayed away from all Cowboys in general, just with that coaching hire of Schottenheimer. I mean, that guy runs the hell out of the ball. I mean, there's no air game there. It's you're taking Kellen Moore out of that and putting Schottenheimer in, who obviously always wants to run the ball.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's going to look like. It's going to be interesting to see. But, I mean, I like his running backs. I like Stevenson. I like Derrick Henry.
And I'll be honest with you, for a guy that waited, really late to take his quarterbacks, he gets Aaron Rodgers in the 14th round. He takes Kirk Cousins. Those are, talk about value picks. To me, those are value picks.
I think Kirk Cousins, with all them targets, I think he's going to have a great year.
If you're going to wait that late to get a quarterback, those are the guys to take. And I thought he did a great job there, with his picks at quarterback.
Yeah, he did. No, he did a good job, because I was actually eyeballing. I know I was eyeballing Cousins, and I was like, well, I'm going to wait one more round, and he snatched him up.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, that didn't pay off. But, I mean, he's got Joe Mixon. Like I said, the only thing that's in question is Dalvin Cook on his bench. He's got, with no home. Interesting enough, he's got Bijan Robinson on the taxi squad.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
He didn't. He's not playing him. I guess he's waiting to see what happens. But yeah, I mean, it's
interesting move. But when you have that much depth, you can do that. I guess.
Yeah, he's got great depth. Great depth at running back.
Henry, Stevenson, and Mixon.
I'm not sold on the receivers. Calvin Ridley's 29. I mean, guy's 29. He's still on his rookie deal because of all the suspensions.
Yeah.
Hopkins. I don't know. He signs with Tennessee. How much are they really going to throw the football down there in Tennessee?
You got Tannehill and I don't even know who. Will Levis, right?
Will Levis and then Malik Willis are battling out for the backup spot. Apparently, I guess Will Levis is not having a very good camp, from what I've heard and read in the papers. But it's solid. I mean, there's a lot of risk if they do pop. Man, you got to steal at all these positions, and you're loaded at running back. So
everything I've read, or seen online at this point, Calvin Ridley is in phenomenal shape. I believe there was a quote from Trevor Lawrence that this guy is like a freak. I mean, he's just in tremendous shape. I don't know. I think good things could happen there. That offense with Lawrence and obviously Doug Peterson, as the head coach there, he's an offensive guy. So I think that offense came around really at the end of last year. The last 5-6 weeks were ridiculous. They were incredible. And I don't know. We'll see what happens. I like the Calvin Ridley pick, though.
No? All right. I mean, it like you said, it could pay off. It could pay off huge and a very high discount if he ends up being the number one guy.
No doubt about it.
But he ended up getting a solid B for his draft. I mean, I do like it, but there are some small questions there. So hopefully it turns out for you. Next, we're going to look at RT's team. His team rated with a B+. Interesting to really see. He has a very high consistency starting lineup. Every one of his starters, and when I say consistency, they're scoring more than 10 points. And everyone that's starting on his team is 50% or higher. So, I mean, I think the lowest one is George Kittle. Everybody else is 56 and higher on that starting squad. Now, there are some questions on his starting lineup as well with his team. Start with the fact of Alvin Kamara. How long is he going to be suspended for? That judgment still be waiting to see.
Correct.
With all his issues.
Correct. Just looking at RT's team, I thought overall he had the more, I guess, consistent team. I guess that's the best way to put it. I mean, Jonathan Taylor, he takes one. Cooper Kupp comes back with Devontae Adams in the third. Kenneth Walker in the fourth. Aaron Jones in the fifth. Kittle in the sixth. Man, that's a pretty solid team. I don't see much injury risk there. I mean, obviously Jonathan Taylor coming off a knee, but I think he's back. Cooper Kupp coming off the ankle. But I think that is Johan Dotson, nice pickup in the ninth. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say if there's a weak link there, I might say quarterback. I'm not a Kyler Murray guy. He took him late as a backup.
Kyler Murray, as his backup.
Dak's his main guy.
But like we said, we just talked about Schottenheimer and that offense now. What's that offense really going to look like?
Right.
How much are they really going to throw the ball down the field?
Exactly.
And Dak Prescott, he's getting older. What, he's over 30. What is he, 30, 31?
I'm going to say he's about 30, 31 now at this point. You got to worry with interceptions with that guy.
With him, he turns the ball over.
But, he's got a team around him with Pollard, CeeDee Lamb. He's got a team around him. So, could he shine? Obviously he can. He's done it in the past.
Yeah.
But we'll see. But I think RT's team is very solid, in my opinion.
Yeah, my biggest concern, and listen, he's got some big names, especially at running back. There's just a lot of questions. Kenneth Walker, of course, we just talked about with Zach Charbonnet. How much is he going to be involved in the offense? Jonathan Taylor, you got a rookie quarterback. Usually that kind of diminishes the run game because now all you're doing is keying on Jonathan Taylor because listen, Indianapolis has Richardson, and listen, coming out of college, he's not the most accurate passer. We all know
No doubt.
that.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Great runner, but yeah, Aaron Jones, he's getting to those upper ages of running back.
Correct. He's got to be 30, 31 also.
Mm-hmm. Kamara, you got the suspension. You know that's coming up with all his off-the-field stuff. So some questions there. Definitely some questions. I wasn't a big fan of the Courtland Sutton pick, though.
I missed that. Where's that? Oh, the Courtland Sutton. I see it there now, yeah.
I was like, that, to me, I'm like, really? You're going to go with Mr. Unlimited?
Yeah. I'm just, it's easy in hindsight to look ahead to see who he could have taken. But, as far as receivers, he could have. I could have Brandon Cooks, who I would have taken over Courtland Sutton. But I'll be honest with you, just looking at the receivers taken after Courtland Sutton, excuse me. So now wasn't much. Gabe Davis, Brandon Cooks. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. But
maybe Russell Wilson rebounds this year. Courtland Sutton somehow stays healthy. Who knows? Let's see what happens.
No, come on now, Russell Wilson. Sean stole my line from last year where I went, listen, his whole tag thing was Broncos country, let's ride. I went with, no, Broncos country, I lied.
Yeah. Ooh, Sean.
Ooh. So he stole that line. He loved it. It was pretty good. But yeah, that's what we kept saying. But RT ends up with a B+ in his ratings. Listen, good job. You do have some questions. Maybe wait to see. But your starting lineup is very consistent. So hopefully that holds up for you to get through the year. Next, we're going to look at Natan's team. Now, he did mostly auto draft.
Nathan.
So listen, Natan and his, as we call him, the great white fish, he's probably going to trade his first round pick,
aka Mr. Tidy Whitey.
Mr. Tidy Whitey. the great white fish, the most popular man on Grindr.
We weren't going to give out your Grindr handle, but we just couldn't help it.
His team, listen, it started off with a bang.
Agree.
He gets Austin Eckler and comes back right around and ends up with Saquon Barkley.
Solid 1-2 punch. Yeah. You can't go wrong there.
Can't go wrong there. They, of course, Eckler is getting up to those upper stages, but still a solid running back.
No doubt. With the in a PPR league, that guy's going to catch 50, 60 passes or more.
Was the RB1 of last year.
No doubt. He was incredible.
So, yeah, Barkley could end up being the same thing. He's top five running back probably in the league. So, could be interesting. Burrow ends up with Joe Burrow on the roster. Really like that. Not a big fan of his receivers.
And I agree. I'm looking at him right now. He gets T. Higgins in the 3rd and Jackson Smith-Njigba in the 5th. Jerry Jeudy in the 9th. Michael Pittman in the 7th and Pittman in the 8th. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the receivers there. Odell Beckham late. So I think he needs some work there with the receivers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he might have to give something up there.
I think he has. Yeah, he has. Antonio Gibson. I don't know. I kind of like Antonio Gibson. Catches some passes out of the backfield, and I know there's an injury risk there, but
and the thing is, they always say they're going to use Gibson. Oh yeah, we're going to use Gibson, and they just always sit him on the bench.
Yeah,
it's interesting to see. Gets a Darnell Mooney. He ends up with Lord Voldemort as a backup quarterback.
Yeah,
so he's rolling the dice to see how that goes, but. It's solid all the way around. I like Evan Ingram. He just signed that great deal with Jacksonville. And
exactly.
You think they're going to be a high-powered offense. I think Evan Ingram's going to be a red zone target every chance he gets.
Agree.
He's also relying a lot on Russell Wilson with that Jerry Jeudy pick. So,
I'm just going back to the Antonio Gibson, player there. I'm just looking at his, what he did last year. 46 receptions out of the backfield there. Only 2 receiving touchdowns, but 46 passes. That's pretty strong. 42 the year before, 36 the year before that. So he is a threat out of the backfield, catching passes, which is always positive in the PPR league that we're in. So yeah, the rushing part of it, he's going to struggle, I think, with Brian Robinson ahead of Antonio Gibson. Yeah. But I don't know. I think it's a decent player there.
Yeah, he did come back around, gets Devontae Williams. That whole thing is up in the air, but. As we've talked about before, I'm not a big fan of grabbing somebody off the knee injury the first year.
Exactly.
It's usually the second year where they feel more comfortable and they seem to run like themselves. So, going to be interesting. I don't like the Pittman pick just because they have the rookie quarterback.
Agree.
But he's 2 stellar running backs. He's outside of that though. outside those two guys, his running backs are a big question.
Yep.
So he ended up with a B+, though. So I think it's more the consistency of those two running backs and Joe Burrow being there. Listen, he does have the tie between he's got the stack with T. Higgins and Joe Burrow there. So it's a
nice hook up there.
Yeah, it's a nice stack he's got there.
Yep.
It's just the rest of the team that a little worried about. No bench. He's got no depth, that's for sure. So should be interesting. Darnell Mooney on the bench.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not a Justin Fields guy, even though I'm a huge Ohio State guy. I'm just not a Justin Fields guy. And I know this guy. They were talking about he's one of the top 10 quarterbacks. I just can't do it. I just don't see it. I just don't think he has the passing ability. But that's just me. Let's see what happens this year.
We'll see what happens with that one. All right, we're gonna move on. We'll move on. Listen, we originally Steve was part of this league. He wasn't comfortable with the dynasty aspect. Didn't want to cause him any problems. And listen, if he's more comfortable playing just a redraft, I was like, okay, no problem. We'll find another partner. And luckily I was able. And Brian steps in here, inherits Steve's team.
Yeah.
So
dun dun dun.
So I think we changed his team name to First Pick.
First Pick 2024, Brian.
Yep. He's looking forward to the 2024 draft. He does end up with Jalen Hurts, who I really love as a fantasy quarterback.
How can you not love him?
Especially with the running ability. He's so good. He's got to play. He plays with a chip on his shoulder. But outside of that,
yeah, he takes CD in the first. Okay, I'm good with that. Breece Hall, though, I
question mark,
obviously, and just like Javonte Williams coming off the knee injury. The problem is it just doesn't have much depth after that. I believe he makes the ETN trade, so he does get ETN.
No, he gets Deebo Samuel.
Oh, that's right. I apologize. I'm looking at the original drafts instead of the trades after. Correct. So he trades away ETN for Deebo Samuel. And then wide receiver after CD Lamb, you got Quentin Johnson, Christian Watson, DJ Moore, Treylon Burks, and Mike Evans.
Yeah, he's very thin.
And if you look at those guys, other than Quentin Johnson, you have Jordan Love throwing to Christian Watson, who's unproven at this point. You have Fields throwing to DJ Moore, who, in my opinion, is still unproven at this point as a passer. And then you got Treylon Burks. Who's it going to be?
Yeah, they just signed Hopkins, so now you really take away from Trey. Because Treylon Burks could have been a good wild card pick.
No doubt.
But now that killed it with the DeAndre Hopkins signing.
Correct.
So now you're just hoping that maybe he's a solid number 2, but in a team that doesn't pass the ball a whole lot, there's only so many passes they're going to be throwing up in that area. I don't see it going.
Yeah, with Derrick Henry running the ball, I agree. It's going to be more of a ground and pound on that team. And then you got Mike Evans, and unfortunately for Mike Evans, I love him. I wish the Steelers would have taken him when they could have drafted him years ago. But unfortunately, he's going to have Baker Mayfield thrown to him. It's not Tom Brady, kids. Yeah. It's just not.
I mean, I think this is. Honestly, he's always finished 1,000 yards receiving every single year.
Solid.
Does he finish with 1,000 yards this year?
Wow.
He barely got there last year with Tom Brady. Listen, that offense did struggle.
I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I'm not a Baker Mayfield guy. He's a little too erratic for me. I don't know. It's a really, really tough spot there to take Mike Evans, but he took him. We'll see what happens there. But I just don't like the pick just because of Baker Mayfield, not because of Mike Evans, but because of Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, outside of that, his running backs are tough. Besides Breece Hall, the next best running back he's got is Jamal Williams.
Roshan Johnson, Elijah Mitchell. Yeah, I agree. The team's definitely going to struggle.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be a tough one.
You said, Brian, you got the first pick in 2024, buddy.
Listen, start trading some of those guys for some picks for next year, buddy.
That's right.
You might want to be looking at get some young talent. So, anyways, good luck to that, Brian. Listen, you got your work cut out. You had a B-, only B-. You had the lowest ranking as far as what your roster looks like now. So, listen. Sorry, buddy, but you are starting from an uphill battle here. Next, we'll actually go onto my team.
All right.
Just because we'll save yours for last, and there's a
specific
reason we're going to do that.
Okay.
Listen, I like my team. I went wide receiver heavy. I'm a little worried about my running back situation, of course. I went wild cards on my running backs, and of course, my biggest hurt is going to be the consistency of my starting quarterbacks with Tua and Jared Goff.
Listen, if Tua stays healthy, and that's a concern, obviously, with the concussion issue, but if he stays healthy, that guy, in my opinion, could be a monster. I mean, he got Tyreek. He's throwing to Tyreek. He's throwing to who's
Jalen Waddle.
Jalen Waddle. There you go. I couldn't think of it. Thanks.
If he stays healthy, I really think he's a top 5 QB.
And I agree. I agree with that.
It's just, can he stay on the field? So I know he's really worked at it in this offseason, trying to, I guess, get a little more defensive with his body, how he plays and protecting himself. See if it all pans out. It is a risk, but I think it was just the risk was worth the reward you might get.
And I agree. And I'm just sitting here looking at your roster, and you have a solid guy in the event Tua would go down with Jared Goff. I think that offense is going to be very good. Excellent offensive line for Jared Goff. Proved what he could do last year. I mean, he had a hell of a run last year. Solid backup there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted teams that were going to throw the ball. Listen, both teams, they just definitely air out that ball. I mean, especially when Jameson Williams comes back for Detroit.
I believe he comes back week 7, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yeah, he's a 6-game suspension for the
gambling
online
issue.
Gambling.
Yeah,
which has turned out to be a huge problem in the NFL. Those guys are falling like
there was just somebody I believe suspended yesterday. It was an defensive lineman for somebody, I forget who, but yeah, it's turning into a real issue in the NFL for the gambling issue.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, definitely, I love my receivers. Of course, the 4 receivers: AJ Brown, Jalen Waddle, Chris Olave, and then Terry McLaurin.
No doubt, and you take Jameson Williams in the 9th, like you said, when he comes back, he could be a monster in that offense.
Be a monster. So, yeah, I might have to look at down there and see how my running backs work out. I might be in the market for a running back, so I probably will have to leverage one of those guys and to get myself one.
Right.
But I haven't made a move yet. I just want to see how it pans out.
Solid team though overall. Yeah. What was the rating they gave you?
They gave me a B+ on my rating.
B+. Okay.
And the thing that hurt me the most, I think, is the consistency of the quarterbacks. Because it was so low. I believe Tua's consistency rating of 10 points or higher last year was 31%. Which is really low, but I'm rolling the dice with him. I'm rolling the dice with him that he has another big year.
Right.
So a little bit of work. So I might be hitting up Kevin for some trades since he's got 6 running backs.
Yeah, Mr. Trade there. He's the guy to hit up, no doubt about it.
So we're going to move on to George's team. And listen, he gets the Cha-Ching Award because he finishes with the only A grade. He gets an A-.
That's hard to believe.
He gets an A- on his roster. The biggest thing is the most inconsistent player is Trevor Lawrence with 44. Everybody else is high above that. I mean, outside of Christian Kirk, which was Trevor Lawrence's receiver, he's at 50%. Everybody else is 56 or higher. You guys are scoring.
I guess for me, I tried to draft as consistent as I possibly could. I didn't want to go on a big run of whether it be running back or wide receiver. Mm-hmm. So I went Tyreek in the first, Chubb in the second, Diggs in the third, and Pollard in the fourth, which I think is solid. At this point, I have traded away James Cook for Deontay Johnson. So that leaves me with Chubb, Pollard, Montgomery. I take Tank Bigsby and Samaje Perine. I think I have fairly good receivers. Obviously, Tyreek and Diggs. I have Christian Kirk, Tyler Lockett, Sky Moore, and on my practice squad on my taxi squad I have Rashee Rice. So
I mean, you got some solid. Did you realize that every one of your starters in your starting lineup last year's ranking was top 13 or better?
I did not. Yeah, I did not know that.
The worst ranking position was Tyler Lockett. He ranked 13 amongst receivers.
Wow.
He was Wow. Everybody else. Christian Kirk was number 11 on the season for receivers.
Yeah, he had a solid season last year.
Hawkinson was the number 2 tight end.
Yep.
Diggs was number 4 at receiver. Hill was number 2 at receiver. Pollard, the number 7 running back.
Wow.
Nick Chubb, the number 5 running back. And then Trevor Lawrence was the number 8 quarterback.
Yeah, like I said, I just kind of took what I thought came to me. Obviously, at my time, when it was my turn to pick, but I just tried to stay consistent. I didn't try to go on too big of a run one way or the other, whether it be running back, wide receiver. So I tried to stay kind of consistent. But yeah, I mean, I like my team overall. I still think I maybe need to pick up a running back somewhere, but overall, I'm happy with the team for the most part.
I liked the Perine pickup. because I think Samaje Perine, I think he's going to be more involved than most people think because Denver went out to get him. It wasn't like, okay, what's available?
Right.
They were aggressive at getting Samaje Perine to Denver.
Right.
So obviously they like his game. And if you want somebody, you're not going to just go at him and attack him and get them signed and then sit them on the bench.
True.
So I really think he's going to have a pretty decent year, whether it be a split backfield with Javonte Williams. But like we've talked about, we don't know when that'll be and how effective he will be in the first year returning from that injury.
Exactly. He's a good guy. He's a guy that catches a lot of passes out of the backfield. So I believe he had, let's take a look here. He had 51 targets, 38 receptions, 287 yards, 4 touchdowns out of the backfield, just receiving. And he still rushes for almost 400 yards and a couple. Who was he with? Cincinnati last year? Is that correct? Was he with Cincinnati last year?
Yes, he was with the Bengals. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I was basically playing, behind Joe Mixon there. So, and I agree with the Javonte Williams injury. He could play a much bigger role in that offense. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. Like I said, I think it was a solid pick where I got him at. We'll see where see what that pans out to be.
I think the only pick that I was kind of iffy on with you was the homer pick you made.
Let's hear it. Darnell Washington?
No, the Pittsburgh Steelers defense.
Don't start ragging on my Steeler defense. I'll call it right now. I'm okay with saying it. I'll call it right now. They're going to be a top 10 defense, guys.
Oh,
they are going to be a top 10 defense.
Man, Georgia's in for a big disappointment.
No, I could take a lot, but
that's a tough one. That's a good offense. I mean, like we talked about, Lamar Jackson stays healthy. Baltimore's offense should be pretty good. The Bengals, of course, are just going to be the Bengals. So they're going to put points on the board. And, that's.
I don't see Pittsburgh overall being, for a guy that shouldn't say it. This is going to be terrible for me because I bleed black and gold. But I think they're going to be basically the same as last year. Going to be about 9-8, 8-9. If they happen.
You're just hoping to see some growth out of Pickett.
No question.
If you see some growth out of Pickett, I consider the season a win.
No question. I think the key on defense there is obviously T.J. Watt. Had the pec injury last year, missed about 7, 8, 9 games, came back, played pretty solid. If he can stay healthy all season, I think that defense is a top 10 defense.
Yeah, because he's starting to get up there in age too, isn't he?
He's probably 28, 29.
Somewhere around there.
But I think, I really think the weak link there is obviously the secondary, which seems to always be the problem with Pittsburgh.
But, you still got Fitzpatrick back there, right? Is Minka
got Minka still there at safety. Okay. Pick up Patrick Peterson, who they say has looked great in OTAs, and then we pick up the kid out of Penn State.
Oh yeah, you did draft a corner. I forget his name, but yeah.
No, the father played linebacker. Who am I
can't remember.
I can't think of his name. He's escaping me now.
Yeah.
But
I know which one you're talking about. Everybody was waiting. He kind of fell in the draft too.
He did. He fell a little bit. Pittsburgh was talking about taking him, much earlier.
Yeah, they didn't take him with the first pick, did they?
They did not. Who did they take as their first pick?
Yeah, I think they went a different route, and then they got him in the second round, I believe.
Oh, they went Broderick Jones, the tackle.
Yes, they went
tackle out of Georgia, right, correct. And then he was still available because they had the first pick in the second round,
and so that's where they
took him. So he actually did fall, but he was, in their eyes, I know he was considered a first round pick. So yeah, they did kind of get a steal when they did draft him, but. Like I said, I think secondary is the weak link there. Don't want to talk too much about my Steeler defense, but overall, I think my team's solid.
No, yeah, you definitely got a solid.
We'll see what happens.
Consistent wise, I think you ranked the highest as far as a consistency rating for the team. I believe that was one of your strengths. Is you have the scoring consistency is best on your team.
Right.
So nicely done, sir. Round of applause for you.
Thank you.
Nice moves. I did like the move you made for Deontay Johnson. I thought that was pretty good. I think in the PPR league, if Pickett does show some growth, I think Deontay Johnson does come out of that looking a little bit better than last year.
I'll just call it now. I cannot believe Deontay Johnson is going to go 0 as far as touchdowns again for a second year.
Oh, man, yeah.
He had 70 whatever. Let's take a look here. What was his? If you have that, Jess?
Yeah, let me look that up.
See what was his receptions last year.
Let me bring that up here.
I got it right here. I got it. Yeah, he had 147 targets, 86 receptions.
He had no touchdowns. That was the biggest thing.
And almost 900 yards receiving and no touchdowns. Yeah. That's damn near impossible for any player
to have that many targets. Is ridiculous.
And I get it. You got to basically got to blame it on the quarterback play there. But I'd be shocked if he doesn't go for about the same as far as receptions, 80 to 90. 900 to 1,000 yards. I got to believe he's going to catch 5 or 6 touchdowns.
That was all the quarterback, because he goes from in a PPR league the year before he was receiver number 8.
Monster.
He drops to number 30.
Yeah.
The following season. I mean, it's just that rookie QB.
Yeah, the fall off from Roethlisberger to Pickett. I mean, he goes the year before. He goes 107 receptions, almost 1,200 yards, and 8 touchdowns. So the it's there. It's just the consistency as far as quarterback play is not. But we'll see what happens with him. I thought it was a decent trade offer, and that's why I took it.
Yeah. Well, no, it's going to be an interesting year. Like we said, it's the first year for Dynasty. Everybody is fair game. Listen, it's the inaugural season. Everybody's kind of learning. Remember, guys, listen, your taxi squad, everybody's always had questions on that. Remember, if you take them off the taxi squad, they can no longer go back to the taxi squad. So before the start of the season, get your taxi squad in order, and then go from there, guys. But, yeah. We are in the thick of it now. So get those trade offers in now. Kevin is actively looking. He is looking so hard for trades. But with 6 running backs, I would be too. So want to thank George. George, thanks for joining the show for the first time. It was great to have you on here, buddy.
I loved it. I wasn't as nervous as I thought I would be. I actually kind of enjoyed it. It felt kind of natural to me. So who knows? Maybe I'm a natural podcaster.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we got to
make this a weekly thing.
We're going to do this again. It's going to be fun. And the best thing about it is remote. I can do it from phone. I can do it in person. That's the best part about this. We'll have fun with this, guys. Please let me know who's interested in joining the show. And listen, we'll get some more content out to you next week. Thanks for joining the show again, George. Everybody, thanks for listening. Please subscribe and follow me along, and make sure you get notifications whenever time.
Thanks, guys. Good luck with the 2024 season. 2023, excuse me.
All right, guys. See you next time. Bye.